Hello everybody. How are you all? Sweethearts, are you ready for Northeast SLET model test? Guys, I am going to ask you questions. You're going to answer me. Welcome to this session. Assalamu alaikum assalam. Who among the following is not a character in The Way of the World? Who among the following is not a character in The Way of the World? Bolo answer. Is phenol a character? Is foible a character? Betty, Lenny. Which of these characters does not appear? Of course, it is Lenny. Today I will underline, okay? It is Lenny. Whom does George Hastings intend to court in the play She Stoops to Conquer? George Hastings wants to court whom in the play She Stoops to Conquer? Bolo. Which character is George Hastings going to court? It is Miss Constance Neville. Miss Constance Neville, the cousin of Kate Hardcastle. Isn't it? Please read all these plays, look up their stories. Which 17th century writer wrote Bickerstaff Almanac under the pseudonym Isaac Bickerstaff? Which 17th century writer wrote Bickerstaff Almanac under the pseudonym Isaac Bickerstaff? It is Jonathan Swift. Yesterday you had asked you the vindication of Isaac Bickerstaff. Bickerstaff Almanac. It is Jonathan Swift. Who wrote Reflections on the Revolution in France? A scathing criticism of French Revolution. Who wrote Reflections on the Revolution in France? A scathing criticism of French Revolution. Of course, it is Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke, to whom Mary Wollstonecraft and Thomas Paine wrote replies. Mary Wollstonecraft and Thomas Paine wrote replies to Edmund Burke's Reflections on the Revolution in France. Thomas Paine wrote Rights of Man. Mary Wollstonecraft wrote Vindication of the Rights of Men. Then, regarding this social event, William Wordsworth famously stated, "Bliss was in that dawn to be alive. To be young was very heaven." Regarding which event? Is it American independence, Popish plot, bloodless revolution, French Revolution? It is, of course, French Revolution. Regarding French Revolution, William Wordsworth said, "Bliss was in that dawn to be alive. To be young was very heaven. Who of the following was not a lake poet? Who of these was not a lake poet? Some of these are easy questions. Later I will ask you difficult questions also. Who among the following was not a lake poet, Bolo? Of course, it is P.B. Shelley. P.B. Shelley is not a lake poet. क्या है श्रावणी? Which among the following is not true about Northanger Abbey? It is a valuable contribution to the genre of Gothic fiction. Anne Radcliffe's Mysteries of Udolpho is Catherine Morland's favorite book. Towards the end of the novel, Henry proposes to Catherine despite his father's disapproval. Catherine suspects that General Tilney murdered Mrs. Tilney. Bolo, which of the following is not true about Northanger Abbey? Which of the following is not true? It is a valuable contribution to the genre of Gothic fiction. Is not true. It is a valuable contribution to the genre of Gothic fiction. Is not true. Hannah, which novel by Hanif Qureshi is about Karim, a mixed-race teenager who is desperate to escape suburban South London? Which of these novels is about Karim, a mixed-race teenager who is desperate to escape? It is the Buddha of Suburbia. The protagonist is Karim, a mixed-race teenager who is desperate to escape suburban South London. Okay, Thomas Babington Macaulay is famous for his Minute on Indian Education, 1835. Thomas Babington Macaulay is famous for his Minute on Indian Education, 1835. However, he was a prolific writer too. Which among the following is a collection of poetry by Macaulay? Which among the following is a collection of poetry by Macaulay? It is Lays of Ancient Rome. Lays of Ancient Rome. Will you remember? Then, which among the following is not a work on art by John Ruskin? Which among the following is not a work of art by art criticism by John Ruskin? It is The Renaissance. The Renaissance is by Walter Pater. The Renaissance is by Walter Pater. Who are the Philistines according to Matthew Arnold? According to Matthew Arnold, who are the Philistines? The barbarians are aristocrats. The Philistines are the middle class. The populace is the working class. Barbarians, Philistines and populace. Which among the following is not an elegy by Matthew Arnold? Which among the following is not an elegy by Matthew Arnold? Thyrsis, Human Life, The Scholar Gypsy, Memorial Verses. Thyrsis, Scholar Gypsy and Memorial Verses are by Matthew Arnold. Human Life is not. Human Life is not by Matthew Arnold. Among the following, Identify the work in which P.B. Shelley stated that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. In which work did P.B. Shelley state that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world? It is in A Defense of Poetry. A Defense of Poetry. It was published posthumously. Collection of essays published posthumously. He wrote it in reply to Thomas Love Peacock's 4 Ages of Poetry. Thomas Love Peacock's 4 Ages of Poetry. That was the reply to this. This book was the reply to that. The Comedy of Menace is associated with Samuel Beckett, Edward Albee, Harold Pinter, Carol Churchill. It is Harold Pinter. Harold Pinter is associated with Comedy of Menace. Which novel by Thomas Hardy has been called an anti-Bildungsroman? Do you know that? Which novel by Thomas Hardy has been called an anti-Bildungsroman? It is Jude the Obscure, because Jude is not growing mature. He is not growing mature in Jude the Obscure. Okay. And it was a very controversial novel. It was a very controversial novel also. What are the 4 kinds of meaning described by I.A. Richards? What are the 4 kinds of meaning described by I.A. Richards? It is sense is there, okay? Then feeling is there. Tone and intention. Sense, feeling, tone and intention. They are the 4 kinds of meaning. Which human worlds? So now, which human worlds is representative of wish fulfillment and being community-centered as described in Northrop Frye's The Archetypes of Literature? Which world? Is it the comedic world, tragic world, epic world, poetic world? Which human world is representative of wish fulfillment and being community-centered? Wish fulfillment. Wish fulfillment. It is comedic. Comedic. Will you read a little bit extra about Northrop Frye? No, wish fulfillment and community-centered. It is not epic. You should read extra. Who inaugurated the issue of the debate of language being gendered? Who inaugurated the issue of the debate of language being gendered? It is Virginia Woolf. In Room of One's Own, she said language is gendered. That means there is a male preference in language. About which book did Oscar Wilde say, "The golden book of spirit and sense, the holy writ of beauty"? Is it The Renaissance by Walter Pater, Culture and Anarchy by Matthew Arnold, Flowers of Evil by Baudelaire, Sesame and Lilies by John Ruskin? The Golden Book of Spirit and Sense. Which book will he appreciate so much, Oscar Wilde? Which book will Oscar Wilde appreciate so much? Oscar Wilde is not going to appreciate Ruskin. Oscar Wilde and Ruskin are opposites. Oscar Wilde and Matthew Arnold are also opposites. It is The Renaissance by Walter Pater. Walter Pater and Oscar Wilde are both in the aesthetic movement. Alright. Gayatri Spivak's reading of which book was criticized by Benita Parry? Gayatri Spivak made a reading of 3 women's texts. Gayatri Spivak made a reading of 3 women's texts. She talked about Frankenstein, White Sargasso Sea, and Jane Eyre. Benita Parry criticized Gayatri Spivak's reading of White Sargasso Sea. Alright. Which postmodern theorist made the controversial statement, the Gulf War did not take place? Which postmodern theorist made the controversial statement, the Gulf War did not take place? It is Jean Baudrillard, because everything is a simulation. Nothing really happens. Everything is a simulation. That is why he said Gulf War did not take place. Which novel by Ernest Hemingway has an epigraph from Ecclesiastes? Which novel by Ernest Hemingway has an epigraph from Ecclesiastes? Do you know it is his first novel, The Sun Also Rises? And it also has an epigraph, You Are All a Lost Generation. Which novel by the American journalist and novelist Upton Sinclair exposes the health violations and unsanitary practices of American meat packing industry? Bolo. I made a mistake, guys. It is not the epigraph. The title itself is taken. The title it is, not epigraph. Sorry, guys. Ernest Hemingway's title, Sun Also Rises, is taken from Ecclesiastes. Okay, I made a mistake. Sorry. Will you remember correctly? Yes, here it is jungle. Here it is jungle. Which is the debut novel of Norman Mailer? Norman Mailer and Truman Capote are faction novelists. Which is the debut novel of Norman Mailer that depicts the experiences of a platoon during the Second World War? The experiences of a platoon during the Second World War. It is The Naked and the Dead. Norman Mailer's The Naked and the Dead. Everyday Use is a famous short story first published in Harper's Magazine. Everyday Use. Who wrote this? Everyday Use. It is by Alice Walker. Alice Walker. When ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan were by Toru that appeared posthumously, Dash wrote an introductory memoir. Which writer wrote an introductory memoir about Toru Dutt after she died when her book Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan appeared? Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan by Toru Dutt. It is by Edmund Goss. It is by Edmund Goss, the introductory memoir. Which character in Midnight's Children is referred as Stain Face, Map Face, and Piece of Moon? Which character in Midnight's Children is referred to as Stain Face, Map Face, and Piece of the Moon? Of course, it is Salim Sinai. Salim Sinai is a very ugly boy. Okay, in the novel Talkative Man, the protagonist who works as a journalist meets a man from an unknown land called Dash. In the novel Talkative Man, the protagonist who works as a journalist meets an unknown man called Dr. Ran. Where is he coming from? He is coming from Timbuktu. He is coming from Timbuktu. Interpreter of Maladies, published by Jhumpa Lahiri, is a collection of how many short stories? Interpreter of Maladies. How many short stories? 9. There are 9 short stories. In which year did Arundhati Roy publish The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, which deals with the Godhra train burning and Kashmir insurgency? In which year did Ministry of Utmost Happiness come? It is 2017. 2017. Okay. Next question to you. Name the novel by Amitav Ghosh. Name the novel by Amitav Ghosh which is set in Burma, Bengal, India. Do you know which novel is set in Burma, Bengal, India? Bolo. It spans a century from the Third Anglo-Burmese War and the consequent fall of the Konbog dynasty in Mandalay. Yes, guys, it is the Glass Palace. The Glass Palace is set in Burma, Burmese royal family. King Tebao and Queen Supayalat. Also, Rajkumar and Dolly. Henna? Right. Then, who wrote the part memoir, part oral testimony, part eyewitness accounts, The Maharaja's Household? Do you know this book? A very famous book. Maharaja's Household, a daughter's memoirs of her father. It is about the erstwhile royal household of Manipur. Do you know? Northeast SLET people bolo. Who wrote The Maharaja's Household? It is Binodini. Very important book. It is a view of the erstwhile royal household of Manipur. Then, for which novel did Mamang Dai, renowned novelist from Arunachal Pradesh, receive Sahitya Academy Award? For which novel did Mamang Dai, Arunachal Pradesh, receive Sahitya Academy Award? It is The Black Hill, as many of you would know. The Black Hill. Many of you are answering. Very good. The Collector's Wife is a very famous novel set against Assam agitation of the 70s and 80s. Tell me, who is the author? Who is the author of The Collector's Wife? That also you will know. Very famous. It is Mitra Phukan. Mitra Phukan. Collector's Wife is very famous. The Gurkha's Daughter is a collection of 8 short stories describing and dramatizing the experiences of Nepali-speaking people and Nepali diaspora. That is also very famous. Gurkha's Daughter. We have only put very famous books. It is Prajwal Parajuli. Remember these, everybody. Who is the author of Beware, Soul Brother and other poems? Which one? Commonwealth Poetry Prize. Beware, Soul Brother. Very famous author. Very famous author. Beware, Soul Brother. Of course, it is Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe wrote Beware, Soul Brother. Africa, my Africa. Africa of proud warriors in ancestral savannas. Famous opening line of which poem? Africa is the name of the poem. Who wrote this poem? Africa, my Africa. Who wrote the poem Africa? David Diop. Remember, there is a novelist, David Diop. There is also a poet, David Diop. David Diop is a novelist. Another man is poet. There are 2 David Diops. Which historical novel by the Nobel Prize winner Abdul Razak Gurna tells the story of Yusuf? Do you know Abdul Razak Gurna's novel which tells the story of Yusuf, a boy born in the fictional town of Kawa in Tanzania at the turn of the 20th century? Bolo. Famous novel. You must have heard this title so many times. Yes, Paradise. Abdul Razak Gurna's Paradise. Famous, remember. Which is the notorious prison in which Jean Valjean was imprisoned in Les Miserables? Which is the notorious prison in which Jean Valjean was imprisoned? Do you know? It is the first one. Bagne of Toulon. Will you remember? I have only one more question. Who is regarded as neither as cold and formal as his elder brother, nor as wild as the younger? But he was a happy mean between them, an intelligent, polished, lively and agreeable man. I have done this question before. It is Ivan Ilyich in Leo Tolstoy's Ivan Ilyich. in Leo Tolstoy's Ivan Ilyich. It is Ivan Ilyich who is described like this. I had a long day today, so much teaching. So I am stopping in half an hour now, but I will come back tomorrow and do another session on Northeast SLET itself. Tomorrow also we will do Northeast SLET ka questions, theek hai? Will you come and join me tomorrow also? Thank you guys. I will stop now. Please study this and I will post this PPT in your group. Okay. Bye-bye.